Governor Tim Walz recently requested that state agencies prepare for the possibility of recreational marijuana use becoming legal in the state. Joining me to offer his perspective on this, as well as potentially legalizing sports betting and the growing effects of social media addiction, is Senator Roger Chamberlain. Thank you for being here.
Good to be back.
On many issues, you have a more libertarian bent. And last session, when I asked you about marijuana legalization, I was surprised at how vehemently you oppose it. Considering the adverse health effects and addictive qualities of things like alcohol, gambling, and tobacco, why should marijuana be treated differently?
It's poison, pure and simple. There is no academic research, serious academic research, that suggests in any way that continued recreational use of marijuana is of any benefit to any citizen at any time. Medical use marijuana even has limited use. To suggest that we're going to say Minnesota should subject itself and its citizens to this stuff is complete and utter lunacy. Lunacy. It is going to destroy this society. It will not improve the schools. It will not make your communities or roads safer. Kids will get it in gummy bears. If you legalize it for adults, it becomes normalized. You normalize it, kids will get it, people die. The real life effects are from Colorado and other states. It's a disaster. Any money that they think they can raise from peddling this poison, and that's what they're doing, they're peddling poison and death, is going to be wiped out. Colorado's experience and the studies and the research from them suggest and say that if you, for every dollar they get in revenue, $4.50 is used to clean up the mess created by this stuff. This stuff leads to mental health problems, schizophrenia, other psychosis. The American AMA has studied this and suggested the same. American Medicine Association, American Medical Association, the Psychiatry Association, mental health counselors, drug counselors, everybody. School teachers, employers, district attorneys, the list of negatives go on and on. There is no positive to adding this poison to the community. We live with alcohol, but marijuana is much, much worse. If we wave a magic wand and get rid of alcohol, sure, but we can't. It's just there. But marijuana is much, much worse than this. There is no academic study that suggests it's good. And lastly, at a time when we are trying to get rid of opioid abuse, we are combating opioid abuse and the deaths of citizens from opioids, and vaping. They want to ban vaping and continue to fight on cigarettes. They say, well, let's go ahead and legalize this poison, which is a whole world worse than vaping. So, and even worse than cigarettes. Cigarettes won't give you psychosis and schizophrenia.
Well, let's talk about the social justice aspect of this, because I believe evidence has shown that African American communities of color, poor people, have been incarcerated at higher rates for their use of marijuana and other drug-related crimes than their counterparts in the white population. One aspect of the current DFL proposal would seek to ensure that economic, entrepreneurial, and taxation benefits that would be raised from legalizing the drug and having and the DFL has argued then there's regulations on it and make it safer than what's currently available on the black market. That money could be directed to communities who have been more adversely affected by this and in a sense be a kind of reparation.
This is lunacy. If he wants to do anything for his community, he should get to us and talk about dyslexia and literacy. He could get to us and talk to us about getting their kids in better schools. He should talk to us about real economic opportunity and breaking down these regulatory barriers that keep people trapped in poverty. He is a chief architect of many of these policies that kept his own citizens and his own people trapped in this cycle of poverty and dead ends. There's a lot of ways to do this. Secondly, I'm all for parole and probation reform. I've been on the record for that for a long time. I was part of the ban the box.
So you agree that these drug-only offenses perhaps should be released or records expunged?
Minnesota's record across counties is very inconsistent. We need to make it fair and consistent and look at and treat addicts as patients and people who have been abused by the system. What the government wants to do is become part and parcel the pusher of poison into these communities. What he's suggesting will not help his communities, but will make their lives worse. And by the way, when they talk about regulations and fixing things, there's always disparities that are created. The people who are going to be positively affected and come out on top are the rich folks and the smart folks. Most of the people that are going to be left at the bottom, the lower class, lower income, poorly educated, are the ones going to take the brunt of this abuse and the poison and suffer the effects. So this across the board, Shannon, is complete lunacy. I will never support it. It's harmful to people. It is not the role the government should play in this state. It's just not. We have to find a balance of what, it's not a perfect world. We have to find a balance somewhere. And we have to have some constraints and some liberties. This is not something we should legalize for general use because it will cause a whole world of hurt that people don't understand yet.
Let's turn to legalizing sports betting. Your bill passed the Senate Tax Committee, but its House companion did not get a hearing. Iowa, however, has crossed the finish line, and so now Minnesotans can just drive south a couple hours from the Twin Cities.
Yeah.
What are the barriers to legalizing sports betting here in Minnesota?
Well, it's complicated. There's a lot of things. Governor Walz at the State Fair suggested he supports it, he's open to it, he's willing to talk about it and move forward with it. It's a bipartisan approach to this. It's harmless entertainment. It's a business. It's equivalent to, people have opinions. A bookmaker for 40 years has said this. People have opinions. They want to invest in those opinions. This is no different than the stock market. People are wagering on whether a business is going to succeed or fail, short-term, long-term, mid-term, and hedging their bets all the time. This is just stock market for sports. That's all this is. And the people, it does not expand gaming because they're already doing it. We have lottery, we have pull tabs, we have, of course, the casinos. It doesn't expand it. It's harmless entertainment. It's a business. And frankly, the barrier is going to be the tribes. We got to talk to the tribes and get them to understand that this is not a threat to their business. But they got to give way so that, look, people tell me all the time, this is what they want. They want sports betting. It's harmless. People are doing it already. Nobody's going to get in a car and kill somebody because they made a bet. If you smoke marijuana, there's no equivalency here. You smoke marijuana, you take THC and gummy bears, you're going to get in a car and kill somebody. This won't do it.
Okay, but one more thing then.
Yeah.
So our theme today is dealing with things that are potentially addictive. Last session, you introduced a bill that would require all social media platforms to use a banner warning that would talk about the mental health disorders, lack of sleep, and social alienation that can occur from overuse of social media. Yeah. Are you planning to continue that endeavor this coming session? And also, how do you define social media?
Well, yes, we're going to continue. We're going to come out with a different bill, a different approach. Look, again, we have to have balances, and I'm about fair and equal treatment of everybody. And if you've done something wrong, you have to be held accountable. These social media companies created a product to treat us as products, not as customers, to treat us as products. They intentionally designed it to addict people. It has happened and is causing great harm, especially to our youth. The studies and the data are just like the marijuana thing. They're conclusive, they're clear, that it is causing great harm. So those folks that designed it and created it and addicted it and are using and abusing people because of it, they have to be part of the solution. And they should pay for some of that solution. So I'm working with, and I tell you, I got the same psychiatric and psychology professionals and mental health counselors and family health counselors on board with the same thing. Parents, teachers, educators, principals, to the last person agree that something has to be done. Now they're trying to do things in the schools. We are here to help them and assist them. And we're not going to ban anything, but those people who've done this should be held accountable. This is akin to cigarettes. Same thing. They addicted people to it. They have to pay for it. They're going to be part of the solution, and we're going to get folks to pay attention to it. And I wish, if we want to talk about mental health and doing something for the state, let's talk about literacy. Let's talk about dyslexia. Let's talk about these things that are clearly causing problems. Marijuana will enhance those problems and make them worse. I am making suggestions to improve those, and there are others doing the same. Join us, have fun, let's get this fixed for people and not make their lives worse.
Senator Chamberlain, I'm sure we'll be talking about this more as the session comes around, but I want to thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much.